Now I hit buttons and have us go live. That sounds good, right? Nope, that's not the right spot. That's my distance. Hello, everybody. Woo!
Hello.
I'm just trying to scuff things up to begin with. Don't mind that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's all fine. We're functioning, right?
No.
I mean, it's close enough. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. We've reached that. This is close enough to the midpoint of December. It's just very close to midpoint of December. So we're the 14th
I mean,
day.
as far as Saturdays go, there is no midpoint. So yeah, we're about as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah, it's like we're a couple days off. We're technically not even winter yet. Technically, but
We are. I think we are. We're in December is the start of seasonal winter. Then there's meteorological winter. Then there's other types of things. There's winter is
like,
depend.
I mean,
yeah.
like
seasonal winter starts in December.
Yeah, seasonal starts in like a week about. So we still have
Well,
one more week.
no. I'm not sorry. I should clarify. I'm talking about like when it's just considered winter time is December through February.
Well, I was going by the exact date when I say like this is the official start of winter.
Yeah, that's that's meteorological winter, which is also a valid way to determine the seasons. There's there's a bunch of different ways to determine when winter is, and summer and everything else. But
the seasons they go by. So I was going to share a story before we got started here, but I thought, you know what, this is appropriate to the show here. So I'm doing earlier today, trying to get set up for the show today, because I usually wait till like honestly Saturday to do a final check on topics before finalizing my docket. And I'm going and doing that, and I'm getting weird issues with Firefox. So I restart and update my computer. That's the first thing I do. Then I clear my cookies and cache, so that I'm starting to log into everything. And it seems as though, for whatever reason, EN World, one of the sites I was using to get news, it just is like, it lags out my Firefox. Nothing else lags, just Firefox. Like, as soon as I went away from that site, it stopped lagging everything. And I was doing all that because there was a weird lag in Firefox. And when you clear your cache, you have to log into everything again. And I'm logged into a lot of things to do my stuff here. So it was an adventure this afternoon that lasted me like a good
you do know you can clear a cache for a specific web page, right? You don't have to do it for everything.
That would have probably been good for me to think about, but I didn't know if it was EN World at the time.
You went silent. Wait, was that me or you? What happened?
Let me check me.
Did I do that?
Sure.
Oh, there we go. It was me.
Yeah, it's you. Okay.
I forgot that my other thing was so broken that the mute button didn't work on the little thing here. But this one it does, and so I accidentally bumped it. So I muted you.
Like, I didn't know the actual source of it. I didn't know if that was something related to that chat, that page at first. So I was trying a bunch of different things.
That's fair.
So, but yes, no. I was able to. There was a lot of topics there, and I walked away from it and got other pages which don't lag me out. I don't know what's going on with that page, but apparently it slows down Firefox for me, weirdly. But that was an adventure in trying to get together things for this, and that was also like. It made just this afternoon just a little bit more stressful because I had to spend, like, extra time on other things. Didn't have much time to do other things, It is what it is, But it was an adventure. Anyway,
yeah, some websites are weird in the way they do things, and it can cause problems.
It could just be some kind of update or something they did to it that's just...
No.
Because it's not normal that I've been there that's done that. So it was just this week.
It could... Funny enough, I know Windows has had 2 updates this week, so it might actually have something to do with that as well, if you haven't updated your computer recently.
Well, I did update my computer right before, like, when the first thing I did when I was getting that, I was like, maybe it's something to do with, and I see there was a Windows update I hadn't gone through just from, like, a day or two ago, and I'm like, I'll do that one, you know. Just because, you know, off schedule, restart. Anyway,
yeah, honestly, sometimes it's impossible to know. Sometimes it could be the way the website interacts with the specific hardware you have in such a. That's why diagnosing problems on computers is so annoying, because it can literally be like this background process you run. Yeah, this background process conflicts with this one function that's being run in this specific way on this specific program.
Yep, and you know, again, it's like last week it was fine. This week, you know, who knows what updates here or there or everywhere could have changed the problem. And maybe next week it'll be back to like more of a normal where I can just go there and use the site for looking at if there's any kind of interesting news topics.
It probably will be. If not, like at most a month.
We'll play it by ear, definitely.
Worst case, you can just open that one in Chrome.
Well, again, depends on, like, you know, if I can go there briefly just to see what topics are there and find other sites to, like, actually, like, open up articles or something. Look for the original sources. Is there anything else? I think there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember it now because I've already lost it, as it leaves my mind constantly. Shall we move on to the topics for this week?
Sure. I'm excited for one, because I actually was kind of up to date on that one, so.
Alright. We'll start with I have small updates, which I call this little thing I wanted to do here, because there's a couple of topics, one of which I did turn into our deeper discussion topic for this week, but I do want to mention the small update side of it. It's just little things that I'm like, these aren't real big topics on themselves. First thing, Kaladesh in Magic the Gathering, getting a new name. Kaladesh is a plane, it's a set. They're changing the name of it because apparently it's supposed to be very, like, Hindu oriented. And so Kaladesh was supposed to be a combination words in Hindi, but apparently one of the way they wanted it, one of the words can have negative connotations, basically.
Oh, interesting.
So they're renaming the plane to Vishkar. And they put in a story reason why the people of that plane are renaming their plane. Probably deal with the entire connected to the multiverse kind of stuff. But they're doing it in reality because, oh hey, some people were like, this can be, kind of problematic in ways. And they talk to people in language department that know the language and help them. So I thought that was an interesting one. This is one of those times where I'm like, cool. You made a change, and you put reasons behind it then. You made a change.
It's not just this arbitrary, we made a change, have fun. It's like, well, this inconveniences a lot of people. Do you have a good reason? Maybe.
Like, if you have a good reason, but then you also do something, like, in lore for why a reason could change, I don't mind either way then. Like, a good reason in the real world, that's a good reason to do things. I give a thumbs up to that. I do like it when they, like, reflect on the lore then, too.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's one of the first small things. Second one, I took a look at Necromancer and Runesmith. I didn't dive super deep into them, but we were right on some things. Necromancers basically summon minion skeletons, or minion undead, I should call them. They basically have 1 hit point, automatically hit if you attack them, automatically fail saves. But you can use basically a focus cantrip to create one that can also do an attack with one. And then you have also powers that can fuel them. So they could also just distract and take a hit, even if you don't... Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's a good way to do a mass swarm kind of thing. It's like, okay, here are a bunch of 1 hit point things.
And it's one action to use the basic create thrall. So maybe if you use one of your other, like, focus abilities or other spells that would do it, you usually have 2 actions. So, 1 action, create a thrall as a necromancy cantrip.
Also, I realized that... Sorry, I'll let you finish. I interrupted you.
I was going to say, like, you can your mastery also tells you how many thralls you can have at a time. Too.
Yeah. I was just thinking it's interesting because this will probably be the first rare class. Because their rarities aren't really in fun fact. Rarities aren't as much about balance as they are about commonality in the lore.
Yeah.
So, and Necromancer should be rare because summoning dead is very, 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 very taboo in Pathfinder world. So,
it's interesting also because a lot of their abilities don't necessarily require a corpse, but I did see that some of the feats you could use the corpse of a fallen enemy to do something and create a thrall. But the thrall
that's probably gonna make it rare.
Yeah. So. And then Runesmith was kind of neat. I looked at it a little bit because it just involves, like, they're in the new magic item stuff, there's a big thing on runes, and, like, runes being another part of it, because rune magic. It was one of those things always talked about, but they're making it feel more front and center in the Pathfinder world. Cool. And they do a lot of that, creating runes and things and stuff.
To be fair, that's actually kind of interesting, because they have, like, an alchemist class, and now they're having a rune class. And then you've got the Exemplar, which I'm not sure what they are. They're just kind of like a weirdly magic item class. That's also something. They just make a bunch of like mini magic items.
Yeah. Oh, do you mean the event?
No, I'm talking about the Exemplar, the newer one, where they have like their spark and they put it into things to make little magic items.
I think they're doing like minion constructs, I thought, or something.
Exemplar? No, the new one. Like the one that came out in War of the Immortals.
Yeah.
They have their divine spark and they can put it into items, and then those like items gain power.
I'll have to check that one.
I read through it. I think you have the book.
Yes.
So
I'll have to check on how that one works in comparison to like the runes. But no, I looked at the playtest. I read through it a little bit. It's an interesting thing. This feels more like you, I guess, would enchant your own items and stuff like that. Maybe more temporary and stuff like this. So it would be, this is just definitely like enhancement magic item kind of thing. So it might be similar to that, but that might be more creating like other types, because I think runes more connect up with weapons and armor more than other types of magic.
Yes. That's what runes can only go on armor and weapons in 2e.
Yeah. So, and then just the other thing is, and looking through it, I didn't fully read the entire thing, but it was very interesting, and this is why I wanted to make it the eventual keep a discussion topic. Is and I'll link all three of these. Let me do that. I did forget to put out the docket here. I'm going to do that first. Do that. But what I saw was they did a pretty good article on D&D Beyond about alignment. So this was a very interesting one because I think we've kind of gone about like a direction of alignment is a very old kind of thing, maybe not as needed anymore. But the way they talk about it is some interesting ideas of why to use alignment and stuff like that. And that's the alignment one in chat there. That's awesome. Sorry, wrong one.
Well, you kind of need to put that one up anyway.
Yeah, I would put all three of these.
Oh yeah, I already read that little article.
It's an interesting one because it puts good reason behind. It's that kind of thing about
not the D&D one, the Pathfinder one. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, that links to the playlist, so that's why I'm like.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting breakdown, and I think that's why when we get to the deeper discussion, we might use this as a other side of the argument, while like Pathfinder's definitely taking a step away from alignment, and it's like there's good and bad uses for it. So we'll talk about it. But it's an interesting article, and I just wanted to shout that out in our small section here because it's an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is just that, like, alignment is... I don't mind the actions dictate alignment thing, the issue is that, like, alignment is weird because, like, especially in older editions where it's like you have to act a specific alignment to maintain your class, but then your actions are what dictate your alignment rather than the other way around. Or that's how it should be done. But they kind of have to work the other way because, like, oh, you have to act this way or else you'll lose things. It's like, oh, yay, that's a fun mechanic.
Yeah, I think it's improved modern-wise a little bit.
I think by making it mean absolutely nothing, it's improved it a bunch.
Yeah, it makes it more like story, and honestly, there is a good thing for it. I think when they talk about with DMs/GMs, because it gives you an idea of where creatures come from, mentally, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there is other information that could be brought in there. But that, for a quick look, that would be. But anyway, so I did want to talk about some updates they're having to the VTT they have as connected with the D&D Beyond that they've been showing off. And it's like one of those things that's very interesting because it's stuff that you're like, yeah, this is stuff that like I've seen on Roll20, but we're just seeing it now. Like, hey, combat tracking. Or how about this one? They added monster stat blocks and hit point tracking to their VTT the base one they got. I don't think this is the... Again, I don't think, because I'm looking at it, this is the super fancy one. Or is it supposed to be the super fancy? No, this is the base one on
No,
D&D
this is okay. The super fancy one is going to be, like, as far as I'm aware, its own separate program.
Yeah.
Because it's got like 3D graphics and it's being made in like I think Unreal Engine.
Yeah, that's why I'm like every time I see it, it's like they're working on 2 VTTs technically, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, D&D Beyond has always had character sheets, and you could do stuff with those character sheets, and you could have GMC character sheets. But now it's like now we have a table, and we're actually adding things to a table there, and I'm like. It's funny, but it is things you need for the table to function.
It's not as dumb as it sounds because they're just making steady progress on their program and giving updates. Yeah. So it's like it sounds like they finally have this thing, but it's like no, it's just they're making progress on their VTT.
Yeah, they didn't have a VTT before. It's the kind of thing to think about. It's like it's like. These things, they're like, okay, cool. Combat tracking, hit point tracking, monster stat blocks that can be put into the VTT. Those are good, but it's also like, they weren't there before because it's new. But it is like one of those things of here while it's being built is just kind of, it feels so funny, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
especially since they kind of made it almost like this, we're doing this big thing, come try it. It's all like, they kind of had that attitude, like subscribe to D&D Beyond so you can get access to us working on this. It's like it doesn't work yet.
I think it's also one of those things is like most VTTs would already have all this stuff in place when you start joining. This is sort of like
no.
What I mean is, okay, not most of this stuff. What I didn't mean like that way. It's like. There is something in place when a VTT is presented to the public most of the time that this is what you can use it for this. You know, we might add more features in the future. You know, because they've got to sell it to you at first that you should come and use their VTT. And certainly speaking, it might not have all the features. Yes, you're right. What I mean by that is, what I meant like is. These are very basic features, though, that a lot of VTTs have. And I really haven't heard of VTTs being put out to the public without some of these kind of things, you know. Especially like combat trackers, hit point tracking kind of things. Those feel like... The monster stat blocks, that could be a little bit more... Yeah, you'd have to manually enter those things, you know, sometimes. Which, there's a lot of them. Depending on your game. Like in Roll20, depending on your game, you might have to enter all your monsters manually. You know, some of them are in there, some of them are not. So I can see it for that one like that. But this is like... They're working on it in real time, I guess is the way to say it. Which is a little feels a little bit more unusual in certain ways, that they didn't like put together a lot more of a base thing and then present it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Honestly, I've actually looked into a lot of brand new VTTs as they came out because I've been curious about them.
Okay.
And you'd be surprised how little things can have when they put them out. It's
yeah. How successful are they
then? Not, but that's honestly that doesn't actually mean it's because of like their stuff.
I understand, but I feel like again. Because people want to use it right away, selling it on a bigger packet, like as a more complete package might be better. Again, there are other things that are probably factors to it, I'm sure.
I think a bigger thing to look for in VTTs is how much work they put into updating and keeping things up to date and moving forward. Like that's where Roll20, I kind of hated it for a long time because they just were like, we're the only ones who don't have to do anything.
I'll say at very least, they have seen that there are other people out there and have updated things, you know. So Roll20.
No, in the past, I want to say 2 years, they've started to like crank up their engine a bit more. Maybe 3 years, but like they're now playing catch up to a lot of the better ones, which is why I'm like, if you have any money, go to somewhere else. Go to Foundry. Foundry's honestly the best one right now out of all the ones I've seen. If you have a lot of money and don't really care about blowing it, then you can try Pro Fantasy? Is that what they're called?
I can't remember all the DVDs out there.
Hold on.
Again, it also is going to probably be down to your thing, what you feel like too, because I feel like each VTT, it's one of those things that you will have a personal feel about how it works with too.
Fantasy Grounds, that's the one I'm looking for. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. They are... Honestly, Fantasy Grounds is interesting because they have really good like note and organizational things. Last time I tried it, which was like I think a decade ago now. No, not that long. Like 7 years.
Still, that's a ways away.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but they didn't have very, in my opinion, their maps rapport. Their mapping systems rapport.
Okay.
But they had really great like organizational and note tools. Okay. And they also had, so, they can also keep, so it's like, if you're doing Theater of the Mind, Fantasy Grounds is honestly great.
But again, it depends on what you're looking for and what you're putting into these things. So again, and something like this, where I think it is the convenience of a lot of people do use Beyond. So
if all you're ever going to play is D&D, this will be actually probably very good.
Yeah, and your characters will be in there, and D&D Beyond has a lot of encyclopedia, like information places already built into the system. So I think that's a very big helpful.
Honestly, I think, like, I'm going to be honest, Roll20 does have a very, very big problem, and that is their backwards compatibility. They have, like, hundreds of sheets, some of which aren't updated anymore.
Yeah.
So they have to make it so those still work.
Yeah.
And, and that's where their big problem is how do you make something better when you're tied to the past? You could break those things, but yeah. So like, I'm not like, I don't want to like rag on them too much, on Roll20 too much, but at the same time, they could have been working on that problem for a long time and they haven't.
It's sometimes you do not see that kind of thing. Hey, I'm looking at you, Twitch, who hasn't updated a lot of stuff and has a lot of problems. Also, I hate that all the information's at the top now. No one likes that. Why'd you do that? Anyway, we're gonna move on to that.
It literally, I have no preference. I don't care. But
I dislike it. And like I've seen that there's a lot of people that agree with me on that one. The thing is, it's either people don't care or people hate it. There has been nobody that has said, "Oh man, I really like this new update."
It just seems like a weird change. I think it just seems kind of like, it's like, okay, the only reason I can think of doing that is that way when you like join a channel, the information's on the top rather than you having to sometimes maybe scroll down a bit to see that That's the only thing. That's the only reason I can
here's
think
a problem
of
I've faced actually, because at the top, you sometimes have to hit an extra button to get more information if it's a lot of information at the top. Like if it's a big title that has things like, oh, I'm in a collab with a bunch of people and I will list them.
Oh yeah.
That will even hide
the podcast did.
And it will like hide like the it's like what game you're doing and stuff like that, so you can't quick look at it. It hides information because of that wasn't on the bottom. And you have to hit a little like arrow.
Because if you drop it down, it then goes. It doesn't move the stream down. It goes over the stream. Why would you do it that way?
It's awful.
Like I just realized that. Like if you want to, like, yeah, I can put it back up and it's there, but it goes over the stream. Like I would think it'd push everything downwards, but no. Like I haven't even tried that because I just don't care.
Yeah,
that's just a bad design. Honestly, that's just a bad.
Yes, it's bad UI, bad design, and they just ran with it. Anyway, I'm looking at you, Twitch. Fix it, or at least make the UI better or something. Like even if you want it at the top, just do something to make that a little bit better. I don't know. I don't know what. Anyway.
I'm still fairly like neutral about it, but I'm just like, yeah, I can see why people don't like it now. I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, the title is cut off. To look at the full title, you have to cover up the screen, the stream. So it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. And again, that doesn't come up with all this stuff, and you know, it kind of, because I put a lot of like Twitch streams on in the background and stuff like that. It just also messes with me a little bit because it's sort of like it's something in a different spot. So like I'm constantly like drawing my like attention to that a lot more nowadays. But that's just like it's a me personal problem. So that's why I'm just expressing that. Anyway, D&D Beyond VTT continues to be updated. Good.
Yep.
Triangle Agency. I'll give a link to this one. This is something being published by Mo Diffius. So there's a full link to the base rulebook. They have some other products that have come out as part of it. But it's a paranormal investigation and corporate horror TTRPG in the present setting, which is it made me think of when I read that. Is it like, again, I guess it's more Control / SCP rather than like Phasmophobia / Ghostbusters, I get the feeling of. Yeah, that's what I got from it, but I'd be curious if you could do like the smaller agency kind of thing, or is this meant to be like the big agency group kind of things? It does feel like that's the main way that it's set up for. The anomaly and reality and competency. God, oh my god, my brain didn't want to say that right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But it's a general book that gives all the information, and there were some other products that did come out. I'm just looking through this. Just, character sheets, a mission briefing, so, they've got some example missions in the book too. Now, I think I think we've had a couple books kind of like this, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so it's like SCP, Men in Black. That's kind of almost the idea.
I was thinking also like, for anybody that knows that, I don't know a lot about it, but like Control from the like Alan Wake multiverse kind of thing, that was one of those games set in the same universe. I think it's an organization. I've seen some people talk about it. It's like one of those things is I didn't play through the first Alan Wake, but I saw a playthrough of it, and it's all I've seen of this universe. But I know there's other games like the actual one called Control in it, and that has a thing like this. But you're also right that like this can be like SCP. And again, as I will say, Men in Black feels a lot like it, but this is like more like the ghosts rather than aliens. That kind of same thing too. And this is meant to be, I think, also a little bit more of a serious game too. They talk about, so I think that's also like a lot of some of these some of these adventures like this could be a little bit more lighthearted, so it's not bad for two. Like this is more serious horror.
Well, I was gonna say, based on their book setup, I don't think it's supposed to be completely serious.
Well, they have a warning at the bottom of their like page here. You know, body horror, mind control, needles, plastic surgery, suffocation, memory loss, gore, force feeding, harm to animals, drowning, parental death, divorce, imprisonment, experiments on humans, car accidents, extreme heights, rats, tight spaces, being trapped underground, overdose, body transformation, electrical shock, youth homelessness. That is a list of content warnings.
So, yes. So it seems like, well, honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. It's kind of that dark, it's dark humor. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let me put it this way. One of the pictures here is like, what a simple, uncomplicated decision. And it shows the trolley problem.
Yup.
So, yeah, you see my point? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's good. It's dark humor. So that's probably why there's a bunch of warnings.
I do like how they're like the one person's unnecessary indulgence of mundane desires, and in the multiple people's everything in existence and the future of all reality. So, like, just kill the one person. For what? The trolley problem.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why I'm saying it's definitely humorous, but it's
dark humor. Yeah.
Yeah, dark humor.
Uh-huh. So, interesting. Yeah. I don't know much else to say about this other than we've got the, at least, this is Hunted Table, I think, is the producers, and we're getting, again, or the creators. And this is Modifius being published. So.
Yeah.
Thanks, Modifius, for giving us another interesting book that you are helping to publish and get out there. And thank you to Haunted Table for making it. So, yeah, I think it should be good to check on that one. And we can hop on to the next one. So if you're interested in Triangle Agency, you can check it out. I think it's on pre-order right now. And it's be shipping out in January. So, keep that in mind. We've talked about Pendragon a few times, but Chaosium is getting a Game Master's Handbook for their for their return of Pendragon, I should say, in this age. So it's one of their classic RPGs. We talked about them coming out with it. I'm actually surprised that we had to wait that we're getting a Game Master's Handbook right now. But again, it's also like I don't know the format of the system to know like how much there would have been Game Master stuff in the original like core book and stuff like that. You know, there are sometimes you don't need a Game Master's Handbook. Sometimes you do, depending on the thing. So I'm like, oh, okay. It does give you that, you know, you need a little bit extra for that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives a lot of information on how to basically build Arthurian adventures a little bit more, and a little bit more about the world too.
Yeah, so this, let's see, so this one does seem to be, the core rulebook does seem to have all of the rules, whereas the Game Master's Handbook seems to be more, less like, how to run the game and more how to run this style of game.
Yeah, I think that's also one of those things is a good Game Master's Handbook. If you aren't being beyond the rules, having stuff for like guidelines for playing the game, guidelines for the world, more other things like that, kind of stuff like that, other information to help build out stuff beyond what your players would know is a good GM guide. You know, hey, it's what we ask for when we get one of these, and it does feel like that's what they're saying they're going to have. Again, until you get the book, you don't know how good or bad it's going to be, actually, you know?
Yeah. I feel like Paizo's has some...
We're looking at 2014 DMG.
2014 DMG, 2024 DMG. Funny enough, the Pathfinder GM rulebook does have a bit, in my opinion, of required stuff, but it depends on how you feel about it, because it's like, you could just make up monsters, but I like to have the rules for making monsters.
Yeah.
You know? So it depends on where you stand on whether it's necessary or not, but that one's definitely more in the middle of necessary versus unnecessary.
Certainly speaking, I have seen plenty of these type of books, GM/DM guides, that are, some are bad, some are good, so will this be what you really need out of the book? Hopefully. I'm going to say, probably it will be a useful tool if you want to get into a lot of game mastering for Pendragon. How useful, it depends on. You could read up. You might want to wait till it's out and hear some reviews of it or something maybe about it. If you are a little bit, if you are, I gotta be honest, there are no technical bad DMGs. There's just ones that are less useful depending on what you need, especially if you're a newer DM/GM. I think that in that case, I complain about the DMGs from 2024, 2014, and stuff like that, but on the surface level, they're not terrible for starting. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Same with the GM guide for helping out from it. So it's probably, on the newer side, but if you're a season one, you might want to hear it how useful it would be to you running Pendragon and stuff too first. So that's my only thing as GM guides in general.
It mentions beasts. Yeah, it mentions beasts, spirits, fairies, and fiends, and I'm like, oh, good. It kind of also probably doubles as a monster handbook to some degree.
I guess because it is supposed to be more of a person versus person, you don't have to worry about that as much. So,
but Arthurian tales do have creatures, though. That's the thing. It's there are weird creatures.
I think it's rarer on the side. The creatures do show up.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
That's why I don't think they need a dedicated. They probably don't need a dedicated. This is a monster thing because there's probably not as many of them to have.
I'm just saying it. My point is that it probably does have a Monsters Handbook type feel to it as well in a section.
Yeah.
With that said, I hope there's plenty of stuff, because Chaosium's monster and enemy creation is not fun. So I like examples if I ever play their games.
You are the one that I think has some experience with Call of Cthulhu, right?
I have some experience. Well, I've watched people play Call of Cthulhu, and I've played RuneQuest.
Oh, okay. See, I've no experience with their style and stuff, so I can't really give up it.
Yeah, it's just things just have stats, and they give you no guidance on how to assign those stats. So you're kind of just flying blind if you try and do it yourself.
Gotcha.
Unless you played a lot, it's you don't know what is balanced. There's no guidance there, at least that I've seen. Maybe they have some more tools since I last played. That one was a decade ago, the last time I played RuneQuest.
And they could, definitely they could have updated some things too. So good to kind of see there, and keep it on. Again, if you are pretty new to GMing in general, and Pendragon's kind of inspired you to get into it, then I would say definitely get this. A GM guide is better than no GM guide if you're definitely new. But if you're experienced and kind of thinking about getting into it, at least get the Pendragon core book, and then if you want to get the GM guide, at least, again, wait till it's out and see what some people say about it. And, maybe it will be a very good tool for you. I'd say keep an eye on it. Don't jump in too early. Kind of what I said about a lot of the books for 2024 D&D. Anyway, shall we continue on our adventures though?
Yes.
Yeah. So we are getting 2 books. Now, I'm going to link an article about it because I tried it. There's a problem with Free League Press's site for getting into their article, which I would have linked. Unfortunately. So, hey, if you want to go to Free League Press's site, and hopefully they'll fix whatever issue they're having with linking to their articles, they probably will at some point in time. Then you could read their article there on their 2 books that they're coming out with. But until then, here's an external article about it. So, basically, they're putting out 2 books. One for their One Ring version of the Lord of the Rings, and the other for the Lord of the Rings 5e. Of course, because they're doing both the RPGs at once. And it's all about the Elves. It's all about the 3 groups of, the 3 groups of Elves that are out there. And it's, I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know a lot about the Tolkien Elven lore. I don't know a lot about
I don't either. Most of my knowledge on it is secondhand, which is not high.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to read the Silmarillion at some point, but...
So yeah, it deals with the three groups of elves, the Lorien, Rivendell, and Lindon. I'll be butchered one of those. The difference between high elves, wood elves, and creating them, and playing elf characters to reach level 20. And that you can have elf characters for, like, whatever kind of epic play they have and stuff like that. I am surprised that would they have probably had elf-related characters in the earlier Lord of the Rings books? I don't know. I think that's one of those things is like I haven't read up on all the different character options for the earlier books, but I guess this helps develop it a lot more.
I mean, I know that like men are like the dominant thing in Lord of the Rings. It's like men, and then you've got a few other things that hide in their own little places. So it's like the idea of like Lord of the Rings of like all these groups coming together is actually like this really rare, monumental thing. So
yeah, that they would like. There needs to be a very good excuse for the people. The species of Middle Earth work together, basically. Something has to drive them together, and it turns out a Sauron scheme that might be up for driving some people together for your epic Lord of the Rings stories set in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Again, they do have different stuff in books, but they're basically the same kind of material, just on different RPG systems. So it depends on if you're doing their One Ring or you're doing their 5e Lord of the Rings, which, again, just as an update, 5e Lord of the Rings is basically based off of D&D 5e, so, yeah. They're going to be coming out in summer, so it's a little ways away, but it's really cool, kind of, that they're getting huge developments. I don't recall, have they done a dwarf book yet? Because if not, I would assume that they'd probably do one in the future. I have to remember everything they've done. Let me just see their books. Lord of the Rings, the role-playing game, the basic one... Oh, they did a Moria book, so I think...
Yeah, I was
that might
about
be an
to say... Yeah, I think that might be an adventure, but...
Moria, Shire, Ruins of Evandor, Tales from Eriador, I'm butchering that one, and Ruins of Eriador. Oh, hello.
Hello.
We were talking about Free League's fun with Lord of the Rings here, bringing us an elf book.
Gross, elves.
And I was just looking if they've done the other People's Middle Earth. And, for both the One Ring and Lord of the Rings. And I don't know if they... I'm guessing the Shire Adventures and the Moria book probably introduce playing, hobbits.
I mean, I assume they have rules for playing the races in the core book. I like the different races in the core book. Like, I doubt those.
This probably expands on.
Yeah. It probably gives you more like subclass or sub races or stuff and like items.
I mean,
and
both of them have like both of them do describe having epic play where you play with like elf lords and stuff like that. I guess both of them because you are assumed to be able to get to those like we can go fight a horde of armies or like an army of individuals like army as an individual kind of shit. They do have epic play for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever read the fucking books, every name character can kill about 1,000 orcs themselves. Toned it down a little bit for the movie, but Jesus, the books are like, calm down, guys.
You must murder all of them. No.
It's very Norse mythological.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
yeah, the Mines of Moria is an adventure.
Okay.
Makes sense. It is a well-known place. Some would call it a mine, however, I would laugh at that.
It feels more like a place a bunch of people live. Just saying. Like a sort of a I don't know. It's anyway. Welcome, Momo.
Hello.
We can hop into the next topic after this one, and we are our back end of our topics a little bit here. And we can talk about Marvel a little bit here for the Marvel RPG, the multiverse RPG.
I forgot that was a thing.
It indeed is.
I forget most Marvel things exist.
Yes.
I mean, Marvel Rivals just came out.
Apparently it's good. I'm waiting a month for the hype to die down before I try it.
That's honestly fair.
That's just how I usually am. So I was with Overwatch as well.
Right,
Honestly, I can believe that with Overwatch. I've heard it's better than like every other one.
I've heard like people praising it and being like, it's a little unbalanced, but it's fine. But it also just came out, so balancing can come later.
Unbalanced is also like not as big of a problem.
Unbalanced is also subjective.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I was about to say that's kind of more my point though. Is it's not as big of a problem as people claim. It's like my character doesn't do exactly what I want it to do. Therefore, it's unbalanced.
This one guy killed me. The game's unfair. Balance bad.
Yeah, so
it's usually that kind of thing.
Yeah, that happens
generally,
unfortunately a lot.
Funny enough, the best way to determine balance is actually how much each character gets played, because that's really the best way to determine balance.
I mean, it doesn't really work when they've got little like shark guy that everybody wants to play.
But he's adorable, and I love him. Jeff is wonderful. I want to hug him.
That's a Deadpool character, right?
It's like a
what?
Isn't Jeff a little shark in Deadpool?
I think it was Gwenpool originally. Which is the weird spin-off to Deadpool.
So here's the fun. I actually looked into this when I heard he was in the game. I was actually kind of curious about his origins. So he started off with like Gwen.
It is Jeff the Land Shark. This is a Deadpool character.
It started off as like someone, and then it was given to Deadpool, and then it went off into his own spin-off and got his own series.
That's fun that you can play this guy.
Yep.
Anyway,
I saw Squirrel Girl was in it, which is like that's a deep cut.
Yeah. They'll
add more potentially.
Well, again, it's an interesting kind of thing there, but for the Marvel multiverses, we get a starter set, which is an interesting starter set to choose because it's Escape from Planet Hulk. Which I'm like, that feels like a interesting deep cut to have your multiverse starter set on.
Yeah, Planet Hulk is well, I mean it's mentioned in Ragnarok, so it's been in the MCU.
Yeah.
But also it's like a storyline from 2006.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those like older classic storylines. It's kind of interesting that that's their kind of focus. But I guess they're kind of assuming that if you are getting the Marvel RPG, you're a big fan, I guess.
Yeah, no, if you're playing a TTRPG about Marvel, you like it a little more than the movie.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. But no, it's an interesting direction to take your TTRPG starter set. But okay, I'm glad they're getting it
isn't
out.
that mostly about the Hulk just trying to leave a planet, not about like a bunch of other people?
I don't know what
it leads into something called World War Hulk. So
yeah, like I don't know what direction they're taking with it. Is it going to be like while Hulk is there on the planet, or is it after Hulk's been there? Like, I don't know. They don't really say.
I also don't know enough about Marvel comics to be like, this is how they'll take it. Because I'm be real. I don't really like superheroes. I've never really been a superhero person. I've only liked Batman because I thought Batman was really cool when I was a kid.
I'm kind of the middle
I think
ground.
Batman's overrated. That's
I think that now. I think he's overrated now. But when I was a kid, I'm like, man, this guy's cool. He definitely isn't killing these people.
Totally not killing these people. Don't worry about it. No, I'm kind of the middle ground for when it comes to superheroes, but certainly, it is very interesting to see. Like, I don't mind seeing it.
Yeah.
But it's basically a starter set, So if it's coming out January, so next month, not very long from now. They get 6 heroes that are in it that you can play with. Just do a new game, try it out. It's a starter thing. So I'm questioning the storyline, but maybe they came up with something cool for good, for basic characters. I don't know.
Yeah. I assume your end goal of such a game would be to become cool Avengers characters, because that's like the thing in Marvel. Those are the guys.
Some kind of big hero team or something like that. Yeah. We also have Return of the Living Dead coming to Everyday Heroes from Evil Genius Games. So, that's a long set of words.
Shit, that's an old movie if it's based on the movie.
It is based on the movie. So,
God.
I don't think we've talked about...
watch this movie?
I tried to look into it, and I swear I'd seen something on this before, but we might have not. We might not have talked about it in Everyday Heroes. Like, somehow it, I think I saw something, we just didn't talk about it maybe. So Everyday Heroes is a system that you can do, and it's got a lot of base things. But the crazy thing about Everyday Heroes is they've put out a bunch of cinematic adventures of worlds they've basically partnered. Let me list off the Everyday Hero ones that we had before. Pacific Rim, Highlander, Total Recall, Rambo, Universal Soldier, Escape from New York, The Crow, Kong Skull Island.
Oh, yeah, no, I know this because I specifically do remember the Pacific Rim and Kong one being like, that's weird.
It's like, I couldn't remember, how...
The Crow is also a deep cut.
Yeah, there's some real interesting, deep cuts here, but it's also that's a...
I could see Total Recall being fun. That's a fun universe.
And if you don't know Return of the Living Dead, that is Night of the Living Dead's horror comedy cousin. It's
by John Russo, who was one of the guys who did Night of the Living Dead, and he split off to do his own thing. It's I'm gonna be real. It's a bad movie, but I kind of love that movie.
It definitely has that bad movie / maybe
it's
a little bit of horror comedy.
Genuinely just a good sit down and watch a bad movie.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. It's also very punk, which is an aesthetic I enjoy.
It is definitely an interesting
it is the movie in which the fun stereotype of the brain-eating zombie comes from. It specifically came from that movie.
Yeah. So, if you're wondering where that stereotype came from, this is it.
Yeah.
They want to eat brains. So
yeah, I don't know anything about either of these. So
yeah,
I can't say I prefer it to other IPs they could have picked for a tabletop game.
And going back to Everyday Heroes, Everyday Heroes is basically based on the original D20 Modern, but they're doing it 5e.
Okay.
So that's also a deep cut. This entire game is deep cuts.
This game is so strange.
D20 Modern, if you don't know about it, came out with 3.0.
Yeah.
It is original 3rd edition. Not 3.5. Original 3rd edition. It was an interesting system. I played a little bit of. It was jank as fuck.
It's something.
And so they're doing that kind of thing. It's such an interesting kind of set of things. I actually had seen that they were doing Return of the Living Dead because I saw them at Hacks of Blood briefly. Thing. And I remembered Everyday Heroes then, so when I saw an article for them, yeah, we can talk about this. It's an interesting one. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to try out Everyday Heroes, it is meant to be kind of like, I guess, that's more like the cinematic generic system that's kind of based on 5e, and then you get the like books for like an IP for like various different worlds and stuff. So you could be doing like we're fighting with giant robots, or we're dealing with giant monsters in the background. For like the Kong one, stuff in the background, or maybe you're fighting those zombies, you know.
I should watch Kong Skull Island again. That's a good movie.
It is.
It's a really good movie. That's a slept-on movie.
I liked it a lot. I think that's kind of where I feel like
it's got my favorite scene in the Monsterverse. Where that guy just gets absolutely destroyed for no reason.
Yeah. The Monsterverse they've been building, that's kind of like where I think they found their stride as the kind of like the weird thing that like over in Japan they've gone back to serious Godzilla while we are just kind of going the full like 60s, 70s.
The US has embraced the silly chaos.
We're like, hey, we'll take over the ham. You can get back to the serious.
And that's the beautiful thing. You need both.
Yeah.
Godzilla is inherently not serious.
So here's a tangential topic to move on here, because that was a good one. But this one, because it is a gaming site, but it's also indie RPG. itch.io got taken down by Funko, an AI-branded software protected software.
Bro, it was so weird.
Here's the article I could find.
I guess they've like... the way I learned of this one,
but you can get an idea of the articles. I like look for more.
I'm gonna see if the article.
So
itch.
okay.
This
I actually was watching the tweets from Itch on this.
Yeah, I learned about this from, I think it was the tweet where it's like they called the guy's mom Funko called his mother to get her to tell him or something. It's so weird.
Yeah, so basically, to say what happened here, basically, Funko had some, like, AI brand protection software, as in the title of this, and that they were using to basically send takedown requests for websites which were... I don't even know what Funko has that requires this. They sell products, not, like, you know...
I don't know, like...
Anyway.
It's so weird.
Yeah, so anyway, and then this automated AI sends a takedown request to because they found something on the itch.io site, and then this domain just accepts it. So they just get taken down with no input.
Well,
no reach out, no request,
it was also like
research
taken down because it was a phishing email that they opened. So, when just like, to my understanding, I think that's not legal.
Yeah.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah, so there was a phishing report. Was basically like this stupid brand shield sent like a phishing email to the company that does the what are they called? Domain, and that's what actually caused the itch.io to go down, was from that email, because that's how Brand Shield handles that. Which I don't know if that's legal, but it might be. I don't know the law on that, but this whole thing is stupid.
Oh, so Brand Shield basically sent an email, which basically the domain opened and it automatically shut it down because of the way. Oh wow, that's like even worse than I thought.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't sound legal.
Yeah, maybe a crime.
Actually, no. It probably is legal because laws are dumb when it comes to the internet.
That's
and it's
true.
A bunch of old people who have no idea how any of this works.
It was centered around a fan page for an existing Funko Pop video game, Funko Fusion.
There's fans of that.
Yeah. Some person made a fan page of an existing Funko Pop video game with links to the official site and screenshots of the game. So they had links to the official site and screenshots that they're like, "Oh, Gabe, check out this game."
Hey, this is why you always have a human party involved in this kind of stuff.
Yes.
This is like
No,
they
I
were
agree.
advertising for your game.
This is why you always have a human involved in this kind of stuff, because AI.
How dare you be?
AI isn't smart.
How dare you be free advertising for us? Go away!
This kind of stuff happens with used to happen a lot with like
YouTube.
Well, it still happens on YouTube, but in MMOs, the anti-cheat, it used to, if it's just an anti-cheat detection, it'll do this all the time. And a lot of companies in the MMO industry have been smart, like, oh, we should have a human review things before you do bans.
There was a period where YouTube had no human interaction in their ban system.
It still feels like YouTube doesn't have human interaction.
They have,
they do. But
yeah, they do now. They used to not, but it's not better. I'm not saying, but
it's unfortunate
the humans
that I feel
are probably overworked to the point of where they probably just deny things outright.
There's like 80 years of content uploaded to YouTube every day. I don't think they got the time.
Yeah.
And with so many probably flagged issues, they probably just look, that's fine, okay. A lot of times, with 80 years, how much of that is getting flagged? How many problems are popping up?
Well, to be fair, problems only get flagged, fun fact, if you get above a certain amount of views. Yeah. Because it's if no one's watching it, they don't care.
I know that certain bigger creators have a direct line for dealing with this kind of stuff as well.
They do. Yeah, if you're above a certain point, you actually have a contact at a representative contact at YouTube. Anyway, but yeah, it's and then basically it took them I think 2 days to get it back up,
which is really bad because itch.io is a
very big
good
site.
Resource and used by a lot of
indie
students,
small-term developers, students.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a story where a student just couldn't access their final project for their college course.
Basically they were like, well, I mean they probably would have been okay. I feel like the teacher would have been lenient, but you never know.
When the website goes down, there's not really much you can do.
But no, there was definitely a story. I did hear that as well, that it's all some student was had his final project on there because that was how they turned in their project, and they couldn't. It was down. I mean, this is a midterms time, so yeah, totally that makes sense.
In case you need more of a recent hate, Funko.
Oh yeah, no. And I mean the statement at the end of that article there, that just kind of says it they got the quick response because they went to social media and they have a big following and stuff like that. And they could say
what's funny is but the people at the company would not respond to them. They tried and they're like, we don't know if we're gonna get this back up because they're not responding to us.
Funko.
Yeah, so it's not the website domain, and they're like, so many people were like, you should switch the domain, and it's not that easy because of the way our website works. A lot of people have direct link domains to it, so it's we can't just change it.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you that Funko's probably the only people using that to look for stuff that it's just feels,
honestly,
it feels so
I mean, you got to remember, if this can happen to a big company, it can happen to 100 individuals.
Brand Shield is, I think, a pretty big company as well.
Just goes to show that Brand Shield kind of it doesn't look good in my eyes as
it's just AI is not meant to be used without human oversight yet.
Yeah,
it's not there.
You gotta have a guy to be like, hey, this was flagged wrong. Let's not take down an entire website.
Yeah. Anyway, got one more main topic today, and that, of course, is all about Henry Cavill here. Warhammer. So we've heard more on the Warhammer TV series, which apparently had been
finally. Jesus Christ.
So I was looking for a good article. I grabbed the Deadline one, but
the Deadline one is a pretty good article on it.
Yeah. So this has been in a weird area.
This has been an ongoing thing for 2 years.
Yeah.
And they waited until the last month possible to reach an agreement, which I fully put on Games Workshop and not Amazon.
Yeah,
probably. Sure. I totally believe that. Games Workshop probably was all oh wait, we have a month left. Send Brian.
Yeah, Games Workshop is very finicky about. I know this is gonna come as a shock. Games Workshop is actually very finicky about who can write for Warhammer. They just once they find a writer, they don't care about quality.
It's like, you seem fine enough. Go ahead. Should you check up on this? No. It'll be fine. I don't really care.
But I mean, this is good because Warhammer is getting more and more popular as the years go on. Space Marine 2 did the Lord's work in getting the average gamer interested in Warhammer. Interested enough that like there's a episode of Secret Level for it, which the episode is really good. In my opinion.
Check out those episodes at some point. I don't know.
Unfortunately, the show is very hit and miss.
Ooh.
It's very much like Love, Death, and Robots, where it's like a couple episodes are really good, the rest is pretty average.
Did the one that they're basing the
Pac-Man
Metroidvania on? Yes.
Yeah. So that came out in the first batch. That is, I'm going to be 100% honest. That is the best episode of Secret Level. It is really good.
The thing that's opening up to having us have a Pac-Man Metroidvania.
It's a really good episode.
Oh my god! That kind of thing says like, will this actually be weirdly good? I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie. I read like the side story for Metroidvanias. I played the Mummy based on the Tom Cruise Mummy Metroidvania, and it was way better than it should have been. It was actually a pretty good game.
The Pac-Man the Pac-Man Metroidvania. I want it to be good. It's so bad when I need it. It's called Shadow Labyrinth. This is the game. The episode is called I think Circle on Secret Level.
Okay.
Just you know how the Pac-Man's one Circle. Was? I didn't like the D&D one. Like I said, a lot of them were quite bad. Unfortunately, the Warhammer one, the Pac-Man one, and the Unreal Tournament one were very good. I would actually love like a full series of the Unreal Tournament one, but I mean it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just very hit or miss. And sadly, I have to wait until they release the next batch for the most anticipated episode, Concord. Because I want so bad for it to be like a cinematic masterpiece so we can gaslight Sony into re-releasing Concord.
I'd like how there's just like for the next batch, Mega Man, a PlayStation, Outer Worlds 2, and then Spelunkies. Alright.
This has got a so it's a bunch of just animated stuff.
It's a bunch of like, do you remember the show Love, Death, and Robots that was on Netflix?
Vaguely.
It's like it's from the same people who did that.
Well, it's like I feel like the first part I see the list.
Oh, actually, no, I do remember this. I know one episode which I really love.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with this. A lot of the episodes are going to be hit or miss, but there's a couple of really good ones.
This is where that weird Christmas monster thing was. Right?
Yeah, sadly, the D&D one wasn't very good, in my opinion.
And then, like, 3 of them, like, I know, and 1 of them I don't. I don't know Crossfire at all.
Crossfire is a multiplayer game, I think.
Yeah, but Armored Core, New World, and Sifu, I've heard of them, but it's sort of like...
Armored Core is the big mech game.
Yeah.
I don't know, Sifu's a fighting game, and I don't know a single person who played New World. That was a really bad MMO.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Exodus is in part 2 also. They don't have
I don't know. There's no link for Exodus. Oh, Exodus might be a thing that's coming out or something.
An Honor of Kings Nova.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be real. You can just watch like the Unreal Tournament episode, the 40K, and then the Pac-Man one.
Yeah. Do we know the dates for the second half of it?
I don't actually. I don't know when the second half's supposed to come out. But back to the topic. It's really good that this got greenlit because Warhammer content largely is non-existent outside of books at this point. We get a couple of games every now and then. Half the games are bad. We don't really get.
Yeah,
there are technically TV shows on. Funnily enough, what your topic is named, Warhammer TV, is the website. It is Games Workshop streaming service. There's like nothing on it, but it exists.
Because are there like I've seen some like parts of like small
there's
animations,
like
but
there's some animations like all those animations that you've likely seen in shorts are from Warhammer TV. None of them are worth watching. They're not very good. Unfortunately.
I know there's also, well, I know there is some like independent people on YouTube who make
yeah.
really good
if you remember the
Warhammer
Astartes project, which is a really old like 6-part Warhammer animation that just shows how cool Space Marines are. The guy who made that was a key animator on the Secret Level episode for Warhammer 40k.
Okay.
That makes sense, because I saw a screenshot from that just now, and it reminded me of that, so that does not surprise me.
And you can tell, because the way the action is in that episode is very much what he did in the Astartes project.
So, I mean, it's good that they've, I guess, finished on some kind of, like, agreement. It's that weird point of, like...
It took a really long time. I wonder what they're gonna do. My gut is they're gonna do Horus Heresy, and I don't really want them to, because Horus Heresy 1 is really long, and 2, incredibly boring a lot of the times. Because there is a lot of, like, inter-family drama, because all the Primarchs are brothers and the Emperors are dad. But as a book series, it's just big men with big guns shoot other big men with big gun.
I want them to do something. I want to see them shoot Tyranids. I don't know why. That's always my favorite. Is Space Marines versus Tyranids.
Give me a cop drama with like an Inquisitor.
That'd be awesome.
Because I
don't think they're gonna do that. They're definitely gonna do Space Marines of some kind.
No. It could be that some Astartes has to team up with a Inquisitor to do some kind of weird cop drama against like some kind of like chaos insurgents and demons or something.
There's a book series called Eisenhorn where that basically happens. Because Eisenhorn's an Inquisitor, and he teams up with, a lot of the times, the Adeptus Arbites, which are Space Marine cops. And they all look like Judge Dredd because the 90s.
Yeah. So, see, they could do that and have that kind of, like, cop drama, and that might be really good. I think there's a lot of directions they could take, but I'm curious.
They're probably going to go for the core aesthetic.
They're definitely going to do Space Marine stuff because, I mean, Space Marines are the easiest way to get people interested into Warhammer because you see a dude just absolutely shredding bugs or aliens. You're like, damn, that's cool. So, I mean, that's why Space Marine 2 is so popular because that's what that entire game is.
I mean, I do have to say, as a side tangent to this, though, too, in Humble, this month was Darktide. So I have that.
Darktide, great game.
Yeah, so I've got Darktide.
Darktide's one of the best.
I've seen someone like
I've seen a big update or got a big update.
Like someone last week had like done it and like played a little bit of it and was like, wow, this is actually really fun. I was like comment on it. I think they did it.
Darktide is a good game. I played a lot of it when it first came out.
So and that was interesting because it is definitely not focused as much on like the Space Marines.
You're just like some normal guys in that game. Like you have Rogue Trader, which is like you're a dude.
Was that the one you were talking about? Has that finished? Like, is it reached the end of its build?
In typical Alcat fashion, no. It's only 1 year old, so it's got about 3 more years of DLC and update before it's done. Which is why I hate Alcat. Because it's like, man, I want to replay this game. I should wait until it's done.
It's like, once you play an Alcat game, you're like, I don't want to play it anymore. And they're like, we did all these updates that have made it a lot better. And I'm like, I don't want to play you again.
I already played you for 180 hours. Leave me alone.
It's so long. It takes
so long. Your third act is always bad.
Yes.
Also, Rogue Trader is a very good game. It did just recently get a big content update to rebalance the game and make it a little easier in the early game because it's a little brutal to start out.
So again, like, I guess we're at the point in time that Warhammer TV series isn't like happening, but they've taken a big step that they need to actually happen.
They've reached a creative agreement.
Yeah, so now they can start to hire people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a concern. It's my concern of whenever niche product become mainstream, because it does kind of happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
Warhammer is a painfully bleak setting, even though as someone who's deep into Warhammer, I think it's dumb and funny. It's like a fucking any other fandom will be like, here's this horrific thing that happened, and it's like a billion dead dudes in some massive war, and then Warhammers are like, here's this really funny thing that happened. It's like 3 trillion dudes who died taking like a guard post. So I worry that I think Amazon will be fine, but I do worry that they're going to remove not necessarily the aesthetic, but the core of like, this universe sucks. The average lifespan of a human being is 25 years.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible place to live because you kind of need that. Because Warhammer is a satire.
What was it? I had just seen. Did I link that in my Discord? Someone that did a tabletop. It was a video game based on a tabletop product from Warhammer. That was a side product. That was an interesting thing to hear about because it's one of those ones that's. What was the?
Did you link it recently?
No, I didn't. Got to then. Let me just see. There's someone that I watched a few videos of that does videos on tabletop. Well, video games based on tabletop. William SRD. Let's see. He did one on.
I know this guy.
It was Necrophagia or something like the team the game. I think. Let me just open this.
I know it's Necromunda.
Necromunda, that's the one. That's it.
That game is really bad.
Yes, but he was talking about the board game based on it, and then talking about then going into the video game, the really bad Necromunda game. But it is a very interesting setting that is part of Warhammer that you don't get into. That is like an essence of the Imperium in a lot of weird ways.
Warhammer is so... It's very easy to forget how big Warhammer is, because a lot of the stories you get are spaceman related, which are just big man with big gun shoot other big man or shoot alien.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to forget that Warhammer is a very big franchise with a lot of things you could do in it.
I do wish that they would more recently. I feel like I have not seen anything besides like Space Marines, and humans, and
it's the easiest way to get people into Warhammer is to show them a Space Marine. But I also am of the opinion that Space Marines are the worst part of the franchise, which is a very hot take.
No, I actually agree with that.
I
just find them very boring, personally.
Same.
I think it's one of those things I haven't seen enough for it to really be that for me to hit home. But I can see that in a lot of ways because they are very simple.
This is gonna be a side tangent. When I was playing Space Marine 2 with Cell, Cell was super excited because Cell is only very recently getting into Warhammer. Cell was super excited. Cell loved it, and I was like, I wish it was a little bit more, though. I wish this, because the story's kind of crap, unfortunately. I feel that when Space Marines are involved, they don't do enough showing of the universe, and it's just kill kind of deal.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Space Marine 2 is a fantastic game, but I just wish it was not Space Marine.
There is more that could be told in the universe with a lot of the characters and stuff.
The consistently best-selling books, to my understanding, for Warhammer are the Warhammer Crime series, which are just crime dramas set in Warhammer 40k. I think it's a lot like Star Wars, where it's at its best when it's genre plus setting.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. I think that's... And honestly, as a side tangent here, because that is connected to that, and we did talk about it a little bit, I think that's when Marvel movies work best. When it's a topic and also like a superhero movie. When it's like this type of movie. They're movies that have worked the best for me.
Because
you know,
I agree.
When there's
the Captain America movies went for just, this is a war movie, the first one, plus Captain America. I really like that movie.
Yeah, there's a political thriller plus Captain America. Yeah. Those movies where it's this movie first and then also a superhero movie kind of in the background. I think those are the ones that work best for Marvel, honestly. But again, like, I think that's where, like, these topics and, like, these worlds can develop a lot more, where they can have better feeling, and I think that's why, like, yeah, I can agree with you. It's Warhammer, but it's like a detective thing, but it's Warhammer, you know? And
yeah, like with the detective novels, especially, like, the Eisenhorn books, and, there's one I can never remember the name of, but it's a crime drama set on a Mechanicus world, which is very freaky, because the Mechanicus are gross. I think those are, like, two of the best, like, books they've ever written. Is one, the Eisenhorn trilogy is fantastic. It's quite old at this point. I think it's from the early 2000s, but it's very good. I can't remember what that Mechanicus one is called. Warhammer Crime. My favorite book is The Infinite and the Divine, which is just two Necrons arguing with each other for the entire book. Flesh and Steel is the Mechanicus crime novel.
Well, that's our Warhammer update, so you got some more Warhammer information there, too. I think we should go on to our deeper discussion topic, which is too late here, because I did want to have a little bit of a revisit. I was talking about it earlier, and I can probably relink it. Let me see if I can do it. But D&D Beyond put out a really great article that actually defends alignment that they use still in 2024. Well, not defends, but I say, like, they talk about how it is used, and they talk about, like, using it very well. And I wanted to, like, because I think the last time we talked about alignment, we were very much more on the side of it is a older thing. It has, like, some uses, but not really as much anymore, especially when you talk about something like, when you think about a lot of the ways. But it's interesting to see that there are, like, sides and arguments for alignment to using it more. And I think, definitely speaking, one of the places that it stood out to me was, yeah, you can use it as kind of morality for players to a degree, kind of like that kind of thing, but for DM/GM, that actually isn't really a bad idea to have something like an alignment, because it's like, it gives you the mindset of kind of creatures.
As a DM, I think it's more of a useful tool. My main problem with alignment always is that players don't understand how to roleplay alignment very well most of the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you basically, it's like, oh, actions dictate alignment, but then players also feel like, oh, well, no, I need to be this alignment because that's my alignment. And then they act in a way that's completely contrary to that because they don't understand what that alignment means. And then you go, well, that's not really your alignment. But it actually, if it's like 3.5 and it actually matters, you know, then it's like, well, what do you do there?
Yeah, because, I mean, barring 3.5 and older stuff where it literally, like, you could not have cross-alignment parties because certain classes can't interact with evil or good or they lose their class features.
Yeah.
In 5e, specifically, one of the big problems I've come with using alignment is assumptions. Like, it goes in the article, good and evil can work together. If I'm like, hey, this is a lawful evil fiend, the party's going to immediately be like, fuck that guy.
I unfortunately think that is something that is very left over in a lot of ways from older editions and stuff too.
Because if in like 3.5 I was playing a paladin and I interact and don't kill that lawful evil thing, I lose my paladin levels. I become a fighter.
Yeah, it's just one of the things is, like, in a theoretical game, it can cooperate and stuff. And it's sort of like, it was one of those things that even, like, let's take Crimson Queen. You were in a lawful evil nation. The amount of lawful evil people that were there. And, like, I can compare that to your characters still, like, I think suffered from, it's hard to deal with the evil people because they, like, the morality of it still felt that it was there. People played off of it well.
I feel like half the time the party found it hard to interact with me.
I
Fucking
think
vampire.
Our party was, well, honestly, there's one character specifically who was like neutral good.
Most people sat in the
very
neutral area.
I feel like our party leaned a lot more towards chaotic good, as in total.
Yeah, I mean, I overall was neutral leaning evil, but I never fully could. I'm the nerd who's like, neutral's mechanically the best alignment, so I'm gonna put that on the sheet and play that because that means I don't get exploded all the time.
Yeah, no, I know.
But unfortunately, you can't play neutral of a lot of things. In older editions, if you were a neutral cleric or neutral paladin, or you can be a neutral paladin, neutral, like in Pathfinder, if you are a neutral, is Inquisitor's a Pathfinder class, right?
Yes.
That's like the fighty cleric, kind of. You can't be a neutral Inquisitor because you lose half your features.
Yeah, it's. I think when alignment dictates character is when it's very bad. I think when alignment helps with determining like what kind of character you are, or like to start out with, if you kind of feel like this is my alignment, and again, alignment being more malleable, I think, is better too, and I think that's what they talk about here, which I think is a good modern take for alignment, that it isn't something that's necessarily set in stone for players. Definitely as a tool for the DM, I love that as like an idea for a tool, because again, like it's as a DM, when I'm using a monster, I don't always have time to dive deep into the lore of the monster and know all of its like inner workings to know how it kind of would act. Where if I see like, it's, neutral evil, it means like I have a general idea of what that might mean sometimes, like where Absolutely. I have an idea of where it comes from. I can then pick up some details from how it works or read up on some things if I want to, but I don't have to like dive deep to get to that kind of generalized, this is how it will act.
I'm going to be honest, every time I've run D&D, I've never, like, or D&D 5e, I've never even looked at what a creature's alignment is. I couldn't, like, I honestly don't know. Like, I couldn't tell you.
I used to use it a lot, and I'm like, I can't be bothered.
I've never cared.
Again, I think it's...
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, I don't also use it very often, but it's more like...
It's a helpful tag. It's like a tag. It's helpful.
It's been here occasionally. I've used it very rare.
One of the other issues I've found with alignment, and this is on the player side. There are 3 alignments that are the most misunderstood. Lawful good is never played like a lawful good character. There is a reason it's called lawful stupid.
Yeah. Chaotic neutral is also a misunderstood one.
Chaotic neutral, I used to actually get like nervous when a player is like, I'm playing a chaotic neutral character. I'm like, alright, so you're just gonna be evil then?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And chaotic evil is, I'm of the opinion you can't really have a chaotic evil player that works very well in most games. Because chaotic evil inherently is like very antagonistic.
Yeah,
I feel like you can, but it's
hard. It's very difficult.
Like, I was about to say you have to work with the GM and the other players to figure out why you would actually be with a group of people and not just trying to.
Yeah, chaotic evil is always the hard one. I think even in Olds they would kind of leave chaotic evil out a lot in the alignment explanations.
I feel like chaotic evil works like if you're doing a more villainous campaign, and then you have to do something like, because they do give examples under, I was looking in here, that like something like the Joker would be chaotic evil. You can have Joker team up with people in stories. He's not going to be great for doing it, but if he has a motivation, for something, he will team up with people in DC Comics and stuff like that. So you know, there are stories and reasons you could have a chaotic evil character, but again, most of the time it deals with working with other more villainous people.
Yeah, my because I've obviously played a lot of D&D back in the day, and I obviously still play a lot of D&D when I can. There are 3 alignments I will tend to play or base my character on. I play a lot of lawful good characters. I generally like lawful is usually where I like to stick because that's just the kind of characters I like to play. I played a lot of lawful good characters. I played a lot of true neutral characters, especially in Pathfinder, because it's mechanically the best alignment to play on most characters, because Pathfinder has alignment mechanics, which is a whole other can of worms, and are stupid and shouldn't be in your game. You should not tie alignment to mechanics. It forms a meta and ruins the game.
I think, again, that's a holdover over older editions that's kind of left over in Pathfinder First Edition. Yeah.
In Pathfinder First Edition, it's like you have alignment-based attacks. If you play a neutral character, you will basically I think all of them, or at least most of them, you will always take half damage because nothing really targets neutral.
I mean, like, and the thing is, they don't show up enough to necessarily be a threat, but it can kind of just be.
You kind of get like situations sometimes with alignment mechanics where it's like in fucking the pirate game in the Room of Airnesses where the one good character got fucked because everyone else was some flavor of neutral.
Yeah, like they're just some again they're Pathfinder First Edition that are left.
Pathfinder First Edition is a little rough.
I honestly the main reason I don't like it being used by players, and I don't like that. Yeah, because realistically, I think the big problem is that when a player says I'm neutral good, they want to stay neutral good, even if they're acting evil. And you're just like, well, no, you're acting evil, so now you're neutral. Neutral. You know.
To finish my thought, I play a lot of neutral evil characters as well. I can play neutral evil very well.
My favorites are my favorite to play, if I'm gonna like pick like characters based on the alignment, even though I really don't think about characters in that way. Sometimes I do, but that's beside the point. Mostly because you have to pick in certain places. Yeah. Anyway, where I'm going though is I like to play either lawful evil, chaotic good, and either chaotic neutral, like how it's actually supposed to be played, and lawful neutral, or neutral good. Sorry. Those are kind of my ones. I never played a lawful good character. I don't think.
I usually will play paladins as lawful good to the best of my ability.
I've never actually played a paladin. I don't know either.
Paladin's kind of fucking boring.
I think it's just because like lawful good, at least in my mind, it's like just so restrictive in terms of like.
Tend to
play it. At least people expect you to be.
At least in 5th edition, I play a lot of Drow. And Drow very much lends itself nicely to a neutral evil character.
Yeah, it does.
I think for me, I've done a lot of different alignments, but I think my main focus tends to be the chaotic neutral, the neutral good, that kind of spectrum there, the 3 in that kind of top corner. That, a little bit of chaotic, and generally speaking, I think more or less my characters have been more chaotic good more nowadays, just because that's like an easy one to play, I think.
Yeah,
I don't
chaotic good, I think, gives you the most freedom if you're basing it off alignment.
You just generally do the right thing, and you just kind of you
do the right thing. You're not really an asshole.
Yeah, and they're like,
if neutral good is definitely the easiest.
Yeah. But no, I don't think I ever I definitely do agree that there's definitely that thing of chaotic neutral not played right. It definitely isn't.
I've seen it. It doesn't happen a lot these days anymore. I think, at least in the groups I play with, but. Certainly in olden times it did.
Yeah, there was it's so funny because you talk about lawful stupid, there's also chaotic stupid.
Yeah.
Those are and lawful stupid applied to people playing lawful good wrong, chaotic stupid applied to people playing chaotic neutral wrong. So
chaotic stupid was chaotic evil wrong. That was my group. We never did chaotic neutral wrong. We always kind of...
That's interesting.
A lot of people will end up playing chaotic neutral as chaotic evil.
Yes, they do. That's part of the problem.
I think that's why that kind of like we had that distinction there, because we saw it like, at least in our group, that was what we kind of did. Which is kind of interesting to see that, like, that was a different distinction for other people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've never really had a group that's ever done the lawful stupid thing, which is nice. But I've definitely heard. I've heard some really bad stories of lawful stupid characters from other groups.
Same.
It's an interesting thing that, like, I don't think I've ever been in a game where we've had that paladin, but it's sort of like one of those things is, I always like, I don't think we talked about it, Gamers 2, where they've got the paladin that they've got to, like, distract on stuff before they can do stuff, because he's so good in pints and stuff, and, like, the babysitter, and I'm like, yeah, that's a trope, but I don't think we ever had anybody, like, really live up to that trope.
It's obviously playing up the mechanical aspect that existed at the time.
Yeah, because, like, realistically, it's like, if you were, I mean, that's the thing, like, in, like, Pathfinder or 3.5 or some older editions and stuff, there really was a thing where it's like, yeah, if you watched your friend commit a crime, and you didn't do anything to stop him, you would lose your level.
Hell, that happens in Baldur's Gate 3 sometimes, if you're playing a paladin. My first time playing Baldur's Gate 3, I think it was, I don't remember who it was, did something on the other side of the map, and the fucking paladin dude was like, "You broke your oath, you suck."
Hmm.
And then gonna be real, in Baldur's Gate 3, kind of good to break your oath, because Oathbreaker is busted.
Yeah. I think there definitely are ways to play a real alignment. We're talking about the old 9 alignment, But I think because it has always been a difficult thing for players sometimes to pick up on, it has been one of those things of, like, figuring it out has been a challenge. And so, definitely speaking, I understand that being a much bigger challenge in the olden days than it is now. Like, with it being much more of a, this is where I start out guiding principle, and I can evolve my character and switch alignments a lot easier, it helps. Like, it used to be a penalty to switch alignments, you know?
You used to have to go to, like, you had to go through a whole process.
Yeah. Also, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know why I just remembered this. Yeah, no, my friend group was the Chaotic Stupid. Like, nice. I actually had a friend group in, like, high school, college group that I played D&D with. They were the Chaotic Stupid, where they would basically do eat chaotic evil things and act like they were just chaotic neutral. Oh gosh, it just reminded me of, like, almost one time they, like, burned down a town, mostly on accident, but they didn't make any attempt to save anyone.
And, they should have just been fire resistant.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I have been partial to burning down a town before in certain games, but we regretted it, and it was usually accidental and us running away. I just remember, like, the last time
they were more disappointed that one of their loot items burned.
Oh god. No, I remember we'd been tricked by someone. We'd been tricked by someone to basically clear out a ship, and afterwards, basically to get the ship, because we wanted a ship, that was like a rat-infested ship that was kind of like in bad disrepair. And the person, I don't know why, I can't remember why they were tricking us. They weren't really the owners of the ship. We didn't know that. So we were trying to get away with our new ship we had just gotten after clearing out stuff and, like, I guess claiming items in there, that the person wanted. And, and then so some people with flaming arrows were shooting at us, and our archer shot a flaming arrow back into some flammable stuff.
Nice.
That was near, like, the docks. And all we could see in the distance was things were on fire, and we were like, holy shit, It's like, and they're like, we can't go back there ever again. And we hope they're okay, we're not like, oh my god, they're dead, or it's like, holy shit, what the fuck happened? So it was like, we didn't mean for that to happen. It just sort of did,
Mm-hmm.
But the person, like, took the flaming arrow, shot it back, and rolled, like, a nat 20, so that's why it set everything on fire, of course. It's like, you crit your shot back, just randomly at people. But that storytelling thing of, like, a weird thing of stuff like that, and, you play with that as your characters and, having regrets of that and sort of like, instead of like, wahaha, we burned down the town, it's definitely something you want to be. Wahaha, we burned down the town is definitely chaotic, like evil and stuff like that. And you players that do that, and you're like, well, that's just... I don't know. I think I've left tolerance for players that just do horrible things like that too nowadays. Unless the story calls for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like what they did basically was they were like trying to rob someone, and then they like their chest was metal, so they superheated it to try and open it. And then I'm like, okay, well, the wooden house you're in catches fire. And they're like, oh, well, we take the stuff and run, and it's like, now the place is burning. And it's just like, they're like, well, oh, well. I mean, like, I guess in a way that's chaotic neutral, but it's like, I don't know, their blatant disregard for life made me consider it more evil,
I think that would kind of be like the blatant disregard, because sort of like, chaotic neutral is definitely selfish, but you're not like going out, like, is it going out of the way to save yourself? Like, you have to compare it to stuff. Like, if I would save myself first, but am I threatened by this fire? If not, if I'm causing the fire, then it's on me, and
I
stuff
mean, that's
like
the thing.
that.
It was slowly spreading, and they're just like, and they walked away, like...
That's terrible.
Right?
That's pretty rough.
So that's right?
A little rough.
They're like, it's like, it's spreading. Like, okay, the room's now on fire. Okay, well, we grab the stuff and we go. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think that there's only one thing I always do. Every wizard I've ever played has been neutral evil. Because in my mind, because I'm fucking dumb and old, in my mind, a wizard is someone who's effectively consumed by ambition a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
So that a lot of times when I play a wizard, I'm going to be a neutral evil character. Because it's all about that pursuit of power, baby. Sorry, your town burned down, but I got a scroll out of it.
I can kind of see that for some wizard characters. I don't think, like... I may have played some wizard characters, like, to that degree, but I don't think I've quite gone that far about it. I can see that as
when I play wizards, I tend to play them neutral good or chaotic good. I just feel like it's like, oh, I want to learn. I want to do good what my power is, but I also want power. So I'm not going, that's usually how I play it.
Yep. I think it's... I understand how, like, alignment is definitely... doesn't have as much of a place anymore, but we still have games with it. And I do feel like what at least 2024 D&D is talking about, where it is a tool for understanding your own character or for DMs, rather than something that is limiting you or being like a hard line. I think that's where it works best.
I think it's best to think of it, like, in my opinion, if you really want to use alignment as a player, the best way to do it is to basically say, I'm going to go from this alignment throughout the story based on what I learn. And you can work with the GM about what that might look like.
Yeah.
And then you can basically be like, yeah. Like, this is the thing. I feel like Ada went from chaotic neutral to neutral good throughout the story.
Yeah.
I'll be 100%
like, that was the idea.
honest. The real reason I picked neutral for Ivona was like, I could go super evil if the game goes that way. And it almost did. That would have been a much worse ending.
That would have been a lot more fun.
Because I kind of had some ideas for how a vampire wizard would work out.
Yeah, what's funny is my character could have gone probably Ada could have, in theory, if she got more spiteful, could have ended up as like neutral evil.
There were
the only incorruptible member of the party was Joe's character. He was too stupid to understand alignment.
I think the thing is, like, I was glad you walked away from it, because it would have been a lot harder for me, because the nature of the game really drives you either being more on the lawful side and lawful good, or maybe chaotic good at most, the way that it's written. And it's a really weird thing to be written that way when the start of it is a finished thing. And I'm like,
it's got a weird start.
From what I saw of the book, you could play I honestly feel like you could have done a lawful evil character, someone who's in it for the money or fame or something.
Well, someone that works for it within the system that is already in place.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like money and fame.
If you're a lawful evil dude in a lawful evil city, you don't want things to change that much.
Yeah.
And, like, certainly the queen and her new regime is a major change. You might want to be like, we need to get back to the monarchy system. She's really not worthy of this.
She upset the status quo that was benefiting you.
Yeah.
So like I could see that working, but yeah, no, I agree that like a neutral evil character would have been a lot harder.
Like, I'm sorry, even the chaotic characters were kind of difficult to work with sometimes, but
my chaotic neutral where I kind of just executed some people.
I will just tell you straight up, the ending I was thinking of for Ravona with, if I did go full vampire, was just straight up going to be, right, so I'm going to help get the city back to normal. There's going to be a lot of dead people in Old Corvosa. So Ravona was just going to start killing criminals indiscriminately as a vampire.
That's fun.
It just was like, I think it's one of those things is I reflected a lot more on that one where I almost would have liked the start to be very different. And it's like one of those things of like, I was only like reading through one book ahead at a time and generally had a idea where it was going, but didn't really dive into it. And that, without reading the entire thing, did hurt me in a little ways because like understanding it.
The big problem with that adventure is, right, we're going to set up this backstory. Everyone's going to know this villain. It's going to be an important part of your backstory, and he's dead.
No, like literally, I've said this before. I think the Scarwell was bad too, but I feel like the worst part about the entire thing was the beginning.
The entire book should have been about killing that guy.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like that guy should have been like he shouldn't have been there, and he should have been like, I mean, honestly, with all the underground undead cult stuff, he really should have been like involved with his son in some way. You know, like
the pure opposite of this is Carrion Crown, where you don't see the villain until like book 5.
I think Carrion Crown, we kind of talked about it before, but like it's not necessarily a bad setup, but they do things bad that are more optional, that you could develop things a lot better in that storyline there too. You could have hints at like a bigger thing that's going on, that like this guy who murdered your mentor is working for someone originally, that he's not the big bad. You know, you can find that out.
It's super weird. Like, I mean, the way I fixed Carrion Crown when I ran it in as a 5e adaptation was I just had him at the funeral.
Yeah.
He was in town during the first act. And then I used that bit where he leaves you a letter, which is one of the optional bits in Carrion Crown, that he just sends you that letter if you use it optionally, which is weird and kind of dumb, but I used that because he was in town.
Yeah. It's certainly been also like, I've definitely been thinking about like the introductions to some of these adventures and stuff too, and introductions to adventures, it also kind of links back to like, it's just that there's some difficulties with some of them.
Yeah.
You kind of have to look at it, and I think that this kind of leading back to our discussion here of alignment, and I think that's a very important point to kind of like work with your characters and players about. Like, if you're going to be using alignment or something akin to that, have a moral compass, understanding that moral compass. Yes, you don't necessarily need an alignment to do it, and it's like one of those things that Pathfinder 2e walk away from. But it also then it kind of comes down to, I think that's one of the things I worry about sometimes with Pathfinder 2e is that understanding your character's moral compass then and where it's going with isn't always as easy to define, but also might be harder for the GM to read. You know, me understanding where you're starting from, whether or not you evolve from, understands where your character is going to act. Like, if you say, like, my character's starting out as chaotic neutral, I should have an idea of what kind of actions your character are going to take. Yes, you can deviate from that, but usually it's going to be deviations that draw you in one direction. Maybe I'm being drawn towards true neutral. Maybe I'm being drawn towards good. Maybe I'm being drawn towards evil. You know, you're drawing in one, or maybe neutral good. You're drawn in one kind of like step, even if it's diagonal, in a kind of direction, and you try to understand where they're starting from. And without that, sometimes defining that is a little bit more open-ended, you know, and I'm just curious as to how it will be developed morality and stuff like that. That's just my curiosity, you know.
So I want to say, from my experience, I don't mind the alignment system if, like, it's in a series. It's like, okay, sure, we'll look at it. I honestly find it's not helpful to me. I always ask people for what their character's goals are. That's something I always do. And I vastly prefer that because it lets me know what they want. Like, I ask them for a long-term goal for the character. Like, what does your character want out of the adventure? And that actually helps me, in my opinion, more than, like, what kind of alignment are you? Because it's like, I don't care how you go about what you do. I care about what you do.
That's the thing is, I usually like to have an idea of both of those things because it's sort of like... I want to at least have an idea of what I have to have in mind for preparing stuff. Is kind of where I'm on the end. I don't want to have extra work.
I mean, I get that. I don't mind doing the extra work. That's, I think,
I would prefer not to have the extra work. So having like
part of me is just like it's like I don't care how you. What?
I'm trying to find something in this book that will help a moment.
In my opinion, I present problems and just don't care how players solve them. That's my personal opinion. And then I'm like, I'll make up or I prepare some options based on how I think the players will do it. But if they go off the rails, okay, I have to figure something out.
Again, like I don't also mind that either. I just kind of like to have a general idea of where they're starting from. So it for me, it helps more with my ability to improvise, you know, a lot.
Okay, I found it.
Yep.
So the Wrath and Glory, which is a 40k game, obviously doesn't really have alignment because it's 40k. Everyone's evil, no one's good.
Yeah.
And I think it does in the book. It really it pushes you to do this idea of the 10 questions. Where are you from? How were you raised? How did you join your faction? Who are your friends? What are your most significant memories? What is your greatest desire? What is your greatest fear? What do you believe in? To whom or what are you loyal? Why are you in? And the last one, say, why are you in this system that the book is set in? Right. I think that is a very good replacement for alignment if you're a player character, is those 10 questions, because that builds your character more and gets you thinking a little bit more.
Yes. I'll let you go first.
I was gonna say, I think that's a very true thing that like you need something to replace it if you don't have that. It's sort of like
100%.
I was gonna say it's one of those things they removed in 2024 that I thought was a really good thing, which was as much as I memed on them, those 4 like questions or like the 3 or 4 on the front of
the personality traits, bond flaws, whatever the other one was.
Those things, I at least put something down on all of them, even if it was a joke. And
100%
at least
real. I don't think I've ever filled those out.
I at least fill something out, and usually it's like a little bit memey, but it does honestly help me think about some things to a degree. You know, it's sort of like, I'll just give you an example. Bander. He probably was a drunken mess at the start of the adventure that Joe's running. You know, that probably was drinking every night a little too much. And he's had to fucking sober up a lot, and he misses his drinks and probably suffers with that a lot. And it's probably another reason he ends up being a little grumpy. Because he probably was, like, it-faced every night before then, you know? And that, like, he just wants to sit down and have some drinks and enjoy himself and relax and, you know, do his job, but now he's in this other planar travel kind of thing. But that kind of, like, meme, I just put drunk for everything, actually helped me kind of define some things about where he was coming from, you know? And it was an interesting thing that they don't have them at all now in 2024, where I think it's stuff like that, though, does help replace alignment too. Yeah, you gotta start thinking about it. And you're like right about this 10 questions or something like equivalent to 10 questions.
Yeah. Something that I like, so up until very recently, and this is honestly a new thing, so I haven't tested it a lot, but up until very recently, I was doing this thing where I'd basically pick personality traits, which helps. I actually like that. Generally, I pick for a player character, I usually pick like 4 positive and like 2 negative traits, basically. So like basically I go like he is ambitious, he is my brain is blanking on all of these. Anyway, so if that helps you, that's one thing. But something I like recently, which is more and more about motivation, where I've gotten into, I've always done this with players where I've asked them for their character goals, and but I ran into something recently that says nothing is basically answer this question for your character, and you can do like 2 or 3 of these, or sorry, 2 to 4 of these. Nothing is more important than. And you finish that sentence, and you can do multiple of them. So your character can have multiple things, but that's basically what defines what your character is like striving for. You know, nothing is more important than maintaining my friendship with my companions. Nothing is more important than killing my father's killer. You know, nothing is more important than friendship. You know, like it can be vaguer like that. That's something I really like, and we'll see how that goes in the actually role-playing characters, because that's what I'm going to be doing for Ixpanor. So my upcoming character in the game Tentis is going to run.
Yeah,
that might work better than personality traits.
I definitely kind of like for that game want to sit players down and chat with them a little bit more about stuff with their characters. I think that's kind of what I'm going to plan to do. Is going to get something. I don't need like necessarily full backstories and stuff. I think like we develop things as we kind of go and stuff. But like getting some ideas about stuff, where you came from, things like that. I think that's kind of where I'm going to do stuff off. That's kind of been my goal and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to mix that with the personality traits to make my characters now.
I do think that maybe like there will be like some like I do want to come up with that kind of like questions to like ask to get some information. I think I really have to figure
it's a lot better than the old 5e thing of personality traits stuff, because a lot of times you just pick whatever, but actually answering a question makes you think.
Yeah, again, that's why I said like I did think of something with them, but again, I also kind of usually lean them a little bit too, you know, on my character. It helped, but it wasn't the best.
And I think that's honestly, in my opinion, one of the downsides to alignment is that it's not a question that forces you to answer something about your character. It's just you pick something and you're supposed to act a certain
very rigid.
Yeah.
What I just
said.
Even
if you can like shift and maneuver, then if you say, oh, it's this thing where it's like, oh, fluid, you move around, well, then why do you pick it? Because if that's your point, if your point is to travel between 2, well, traveling between 2 is a way to handle it that's less rigid. But if you're, it's just, oh, my actions make my alignment, then okay, cool. Why does that matter to a player then?
It helps, but it doesn't really fit the problem. You know, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It helps us something.
That's the thing. It can help a GM, but how does it help a player?
Well, for players, I do think it's like whether or not you change that, it's like this is where I'm coming from at the start of the adventure, like morality-wise, like am I good, evil, law, and chaos kind of thing. That idea of where I start at the beginning of it, and when I experience things, I grow and change, you know, and the adventure we go through alters where my path is, you know. I think that's the kind of thing of like maybe that is where you kind of have to go with it, but again, it is that difficult thing of understanding the suggestion and then working off of that and then like beginning to evolve that, because I feel like it's that kind of thing of like we talk about like the transitions between alignment, but it's sort of like maybe that's where you started with anyway. You got kind of like weird morality in between places and you kind of evolve it, you know. It's alignment is just such a different and interesting, difficult to hammer down because people change as they experience things and their lives mold them, you know. We are not just set in stone. Generally speaking, we don't have major changes usually in our lives, but it can happen, you know, that something could drive us one way or another, you know. a terrible tragedy could turn you into a villain, or a redeeming moment could draw you to be a great person. So it isn't impossible. It's just, yeah.
Oh, I agree. It's not impossible. I just don't feel like it's helpful for people who aren't willing to be introspective already.
And I think because there are a lot of game systems that do not use alignment, that taking that step back and kind of saying, like, well, other questions helping define the character are a better way. I kind of agree with that. It kind of comes back down to that. As much as I like that article that Wizards did there on D&D Beyond, I feel like for players, it just isn't as much. As we said, players, it just isn't as much of an importance. I think where it comes into anything is that GM, DM helps me understand the motivation of my creatures on a base level. If I'm not inventing that to begin with.
Yeah, in a world that is not morally gray and has clear lines of good and evil, then I think the alignment system works. Funny enough, I still think the lawful chaotic system doesn't work super well, because what if one person's lawful, like, oh, this city believes this is the law, and then in the next city this is the law. How do you there's certain things where it's like, I still think there's issues there if you're rigid with it. But the idea of following the law is fair.
I think the thing is that lawful, that's just a misunderstanding, I think, of the idea of lawful in a lot of ways.
True.
Because that boils it down to the rules of the land. It's generally speaking is, you don't do things that you feel like would break the rules in general. You have a strict code that you follow, and you don't go. You go out basically like, you might not know all the laws of the land and necessarily like follow them, but you're not doing it purposefully to not follow them.
Yeah, at least in Pathfinder does at least one, he did a really good job of explaining how lawful works. Lawful in Pathfinder is supposed to represent a devotion to law, authority, tradition, or a personal moral code.
Yeah. No, you're right. I just feel like there's some. My thought is more just like, when you really get down to it, it's like, I like the interpretation of law more as order or code than it is than to like the laws of the land.
I do agree with you that is a thing that exists that can be a crutch to and a problem when you're talking about that type of system, the law versus chaos system. The laws of the land just kind of makes things more difficult, especially if you're traveling to a lot of different places.
This is actually one of the reasons why I like 40k is 40k is a universe balance that is order versus chaos. Order representing functioning like hierarchy and governance, chaos representing indulgence, just like absolute indulgence, absolute strength rules everything, that kind of thing. As much as the Imperium is evil, it is society sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's the thing about 40k. The idea is, oh no, we have to basically be strict and evil, or else like chaos will win. Like,
it's real rough when in the 40k universe, a dude can be born just a little bit weird, have a nightmare, and then a demon portal opens.
Yeah. So it's kind of just like, if you're not strict and not kind of cruel about it, you actually can kill a lot of people.
There's a reason why in 40k, all psychers are fucking put into school and taught how to control that shit.
Yep.
I think that's probably a good place to leave this discussion. It was a very interesting revisit to alignment. I think we did kind of bring on some points that we said before, but also kind of brought in a few more extra points that we didn't hit on. So I think that was a good discussion. So, anyway, shall we talk about our week in tabletop to kind of finish this up?
Sure.
Me and Joe's game, right? Yes, this is this week.
Yep.
It's because it's every other week. Sometimes my brain tries to breathe on it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. We
got what we wanted, which was this Modron, which turns out he was horribly tormented by our employer.
So,
which kind of puts
actually,
us in this... Well, look.
Well, we started by going to rescue him and fighting a giant spider.
Giant spider. We rescued him. Granted, it's he says, she says, but he has missing parts of his body, which kind of support he. You know, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. The Shemeshka, the Archon, who was... No, not an Archon. Arcanoloth. There we go. Arcanoloth, who was trying to, who told us it was her accountant. We come there and he's like, oh yeah, no, she was torturing me trying to figure out how I worked or something like that. And it's all like, okay. And he has missing parts of him.
Yeah, our original idea was he just left with numbers because I assumed he was mistreated, but it was like,
oh, same.
Not that.
Have you considered, though, he did that to himself and he's lying to go to work? Have you considered that option, though?
I mean, he's Modron, which would be unusual, but not necessarily unheard of. Well, that's why we're playing it by ear, because it's sort of like, this seems shady, but, you know, I don't know. So, yeah, we're gonna go meet it. And also, like, the person that was with us...
Shemeshka, but also not bring the guy with us.
Just throw that guy off a cliff. I think he's a little sus.
Yeah, the person that was with us, like, betrayed us, but we beat them up, and I was like, look, and I did give them the option just to leave, and they were like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna take it. I don't want to get killed by you guys.
No. Apparently we gave them that offer when they were on, like, 4 hit points. So, basically, it was the weirdest, it was the most drawn-out war of attrition fight ever. Because it was like a celestial creature that had it was more of a true neutral celestial, but it was like a celestial creature who had true sight and therefore could see through fog and kept casting fog cloud, meaning none of our spellcasters could use our spells on her,
and
because
they
require sight.
Auto irresistible dance on her, and she just danced.
Yeah, and so, like, she couldn't do much, we couldn't do much, and we're just basically just plinking damage, slowly taking damage from her, occasionally hitting us, and it was just this, it literally took us, I think, like, an hour to do the fight. And it was just like... okay, here's a fun thing. We had minute-long spells that actually expired. That's how long the combat took.
I think I was down to 1 round. Auto-Series was still dance last a minute. I think I was down to 1 round at the end when I gave her the option just to leave. But it was sort of like, you just want to leave? You just want to leave? And she's like, yes. Great.
Literally to prevent the Modron from like being captured, we flew, like, I flew away with him because he could fly across the gap, and I started casting the
tiny hut.
The tiny hut. And, like, literally, I had, like, 3 turns left when we finished, and that was after traveling across a gap that took, like, 4 turns to cross.
It was just a battle.
It just took forever. It was kind of fun in the weird way that it was just like, okay, like,
I had
what
nothing,
are we doing?
I had nothing I could do anymore. I could just sit there and keep dancing going. That was my entire purpose.
I mean, yeah, the problem is we actually don't really have melee fighters in our group. Like, we have people who can be in the front and take hits, but, like, you know, we have a druid who's kind of more of a frontline caster, and then a warlock who's also kind of a frontline caster. So it's like this weird thing. He's a Pact of the Blade, but he uses Eldritch Blast more than... he uses his sword. So this time he used his sword a lot, which is where most of our plink damage came from.
So yeah, in a couple weeks we're gonna see what happens when we, I guess, reverse break into the casino, or no, it wouldn't be reverse. We break into the casino and find out information about our employer or something, and whether or not we should, you know, betray them or something, or figure out what the hell to do. You know, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
It was very interesting
on a Sunday.
Nah.
How about a Monday?
We played.
Sorry, you go first.
Oh,
I was about to say we played the D&D board game.
Oh, we did Wrath of a Shardlon.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. With Joe.
Yeah. Is that our first session? We did 2 sessions.
No, those are second. Our first one we did on.
the week before.
Actually, did we do that Saturday? We might have done that like Saturday.
We've done 2 sessions. We did 2 adventures kind of back to back. We're trying to do a serials adventures and play it where it works. And I mean, the D&D board games, it's actually a simplified version of 4E. It's fun, you know. It's simple.
I think it's fun. I liked it because we were like kind of near the end, and we got. So there are certain monsters which can summon other monsters, and we got a chain of 5 of that right at the end, and we're just like, and we had already used both of, because you get group healing surges instead of like, if you know 4E you have healing surges, but in this you have like group healing surges which you only have 2 of. So basically 2 people can go down throughout the entire board game. And we had used both of them. We used both of them already. We were low on health. I think I had 3 hit points. Someone else had like 2, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna rush to the end because we knew it was the next tile we revealed was going to be like our goal, and so we just did it, and it was just the most clutch ending. It was great, but it was just literally this like right at the end when we were like so low on resources and just about to win, we get this chain of just 5 creatures summoned. It was ridiculous.
It was a good idea though. I think it went well. It was fun. So, Momo, what was your Monday?
Monday we did a Rivers Fallout game. It's fun time. We basically were doing the plot of Fallout 4, but Rivers made it less dumb, basically. So we basically went into Glowing Sea. We got the stuff to build the teleporter, so we're gonna go and blow up the Institute.
Ooh.
They're evil. They suck.
That evil Institute.
It's been a fun game. It's been nice to play it again. I don't get to play it often, sadly.
Tuesday we had your game.
Had my game.
Okay. Now I'm gonna have to use my brain because it's like every time I get one hint on your game, I remember it all. Before then, it just leaves me. So now I have to kind of think of like that one hint, what happened, and then it'll come back to me. We finished up the ship. We didn't necessarily finish the ship. We got to the next part of the ship. Because we
got to the next part of the ship. You fought a boss.
We were fighting the boss. We were fighting the AI core. Because I remember we found out we basically chose battles over exploration, basically, is what we did. So, we fought the AI monstrosity. We defeated it. We got a new thing in there who's now controlling the security. And then we went and we found out one of the people we were looking for, really isn't with them or not. I'm still a little
she's
confused.
Possibly a spy or lying to you.
Yeah, that's the part I was like, I was a little like confused about, because we're like, we shot at her and that was kind of a diplomatic incident, but also like she was kind of with the guy we were enemies with, so I'm a little confused on that one.
I mean, that's purposely meant to be a little confusing.
Yeah. So I don't think we've quite resolved everything around that.
No, you definitely haven't resolved that yet.
So yeah, we're dealing with the aftermaths of that.
You've gone into a divination of the past. I gave you choice, past or future, and you picked past.
That's right, and we're in like past versions of us. But they're not like versions of us, but are, you know,
being weird.
Yeah,
you're gonna go witness a battle.
It makes me think of was it Fallout 3 Operation Anchorage or something?
I'm gonna tell you, the future one would have been way more interesting, but no one wanted to do the future.
Well, I was thinking about what would give us the most
only
information.
One who wanted to do the future.
It might have been cool, but I don't think we had a hint that the future would have been great for information for what we're looking into. I think for me, it's like I have way too many questions about what's going on that the past might be able to.
A lot of the past will give you a lot of clarity. I will reward you with items, of course, because I always like to give people items.
Yeah.
You'll get some clarity. You will by the end of possibly next session, hopefully, if it doesn't take too long, you will have an understanding of what is happening.
Okay, that's good.
Assuming we get to that point, because I'm gonna be real. not playing on Christmas Eve, and I'd be missing a player on New Year's, so the next game wouldn't be till the 7th. So I'm really hoping we could get this past thing done.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I'll try my best, but I do leave a himbo and a shark to their own devices 99% of the time, and it's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the shark is very anti-technology, so...
I don't want to fight with either of them, so I just leave them to their devices and hope for the best. And
it works out most of the time.
Things happen with the two of them. The story progresses.
The story has indeed progressed.
In a good way with Shark and Himbo.
Who's to say?
I'm over here with this Catman, and we're just like, and Catman's like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, it's okay, just let it go with the flow. Catman and a.
I mean, you did kind of get told the villain's plan, which is to complete some kind of ancient prophecy or use a cult. Basically, he's using you kind of learned he's using the cult who are obsessed with some kind of weird prophecy that just says, hey, if enough souls happen to be freed up, our god will come back. And this Necron is like, man, I can use this to restart an undead plague.
Good times? I don't know. Times?
You don't want that god coming back.
Well,
that
I
would
mean,
be bad.
I agree. We've heard very unpleasant things about this person.
Very fair. I mean, there's not really many good people in this story.
No.
Your main ally is like, you read her whole rant about the fact that she's sad. She did a lot of terrible things.
I'm sad I did many a genocide. That's the way I
was like, she's basically like, man, this planet would be hard to take. Let me just press this button real fast. It's gone.
Mm-hmm. It definitely was one of those things I'm like, man, you're kind of terrible, but whatever. I guess we don't really have much choice in allies.
Yeah, she's no longer in an orb, so she's a little less sad now.
Yeah. I didn't do anything else this week.
I played Warhammer on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's been nice getting back into Warhammer. 10th edition's pretty fun. I took an edition long break, which is like 4 fucking years in Warhammer terms. So it's been nice to get back into it. It's very expensive. Thankfully, I have friends who have minis I can use. I also am not confident in my painting skills anymore, so.
I was always bad at painting. That's why, like, I try to paint just D&D minis for like.
That's why I'm like, I would buy minis, but I'd be too afraid to paint them. Especially like some of the armies look real hard to paint, and some of those armies are armies I like.
Yeah.
I mostly play Necron, which are just like silver robot skeletons, and that's easy as hell to paint. So, like, who knows? I mean, Necrons are like really popular now. They're not particularly good, but they have fun lore and fun units, and that's all that matters. I mean, I guess I could talk about it a little bit. My friend plays a lot of Night Lords, which is a Chaos faction, and if you play Chaos, you have to roll a die to see if the Dark Gods take their due, and boy did they fucked him up. They fucking good old, I forget which Chaos God the Night Lords is, but it was just like, man, you got this Chaos tank? Fuck that guy, it's gonna keep taking damage because I'm unhappy.
Just some of the actual mechanics I hear about are just silly.
So funny. There are some really because Warhammer used to be a very narrative game. They obviously streamlined it because games would take fucking 5 hours. Now they take about an hour. One of the old guard rules for one of the regiments called the Catechins, who are basically like big Rambo guys. You would have your commissar you would have to roll a die in the deployment phase, and if you rolled like a 1, the commissar was dead before the match started because the Catechins had killed him.
How are they?
It's like one of the guys, he still has this rule, Karn the Betrayer. If you have to roll to see if he goes crazy, and if you roll a 1, he kills the enemies, or he attacks the enemies, but he also attacks any allies next to him. So you could just roll badly, and he kills everything near him.
Well,
It's a very goofy game. This is the last one. One of my favorite units. It's no longer in the game, sadly, but there's an orc tank that can fire a bunch of types of different missiles, like fire missiles, standard missiles, warp missiles. And the rules, you have to roll to see which one fires. It's controlled by little goblin men, and goblin men are stupid. On a 1, you shoot yourself. They put the missile in backwards, and you take damage because it blows up in the tank. I think on like a 2 or a 3, it fires a normal explosive missile, and then on a 5 and a 5 and a 6 or something, it doesn't fire. So they have all these rules for different missiles you can use, but it can only fire a standard tank round. And they wrote rules for all the other missiles it can use. Orcs are just silly.
Yeah.
Orcs are the epitome of I've rolled 40 dice, I've hit you once, haha.
I think that's the quote of like, no matter what, if you play orcs, you're never going to be salty.
If you're playing orcs, you're there for a good time and nothing else.
Because the dice are going to do something, and you don't know
you're
what.
You're just there for fun.
The dice... Maybe the dice will be with you this day.
One of your units is just a guy driving a missile into a target.
Are the dice going to be with you today? Who knows?
Usually not, in my luck.
We'll find out.
Orcs are the only creatures having fun in 40k.
Yeah.
There's a really good quote from an Eldar book that's like, the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is an orc having fun.
Alright. Well, that was, I think, a very, very good place to leave it there with orcs having fun. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, of course, to Momo for popping in there.
I came out of the walls for this one.
Hey,
that's where I live.
Getting a little Warhammer in there sounds like it was a good fun idea.
I am the Warhammer expert of the friend group. Quotations on expert. There's a lot of shit I don't know about Warhammer.
There's so much of it. Like I definitely know more now than I did a year ago, but I only know more about like some of the lore just because
it's like real rough to try and keep up nowadays because they release like a new book every week.
I basically know a lot of the I don't know like much of the lore at all, but I know a lot of the setting.
I'm comfortable at the point where I'm like, I could watch like these deep dive lore channels, or I could listen to the funny podcast that memes on Warhammer, and that's what I choose to listen to.
Like for me, it's like most days of the week, the funny people that do like shorts that have like quick lore snippets. That's very interesting. Neat. That's me. It's like I can spend a minute learning something.
If you want a deep dive, there's a guy called Luden on YouTube who does really big deep dives. If you just want silly times that talks about the more wacky aspect, the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast is very good for that.
But Worm, thank you two for joining us. Do you want to Momo, did you have any shout outs?
I don't have any shout outs right now. Okami's 75% off. Go buy it. It's getting a sequel.
It is.
It's the best game ever made.
Worm, you've got some shout outs though too. You can put out there. Of course.
I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter. DiamondWyrm on Blue Sky as well. I technically just post everything on both places.
I could shout out my Blue Sky. I have it. I just don't use it enough.
I have found that I just tend to use Blue Sky more nowadays, but I'd still.
It's just nicer to look at.
I'm still just like most of the time I use the social media. I just hop on Discord, and say something because like Discord's so much.
Yeah, I haven't opened my Twitter in like 4 months.
It's posting when I go live. I keep thinking about doing stuff with like videos. It used to link that you could do that, but not anymore. Thanks, YouTube.
Woo, YouTube, so cool.
Straight choices. But anyway, Worm, you were saying something.
I mean, not really anything. I mean, I guess I'm messing around with stuff for Tantus's game, whether that's making his map for his world, or messing around with my character, or writing my character backstory.
Myself, Dracovin. Hey, got a few things coming up on the agenda. Hey, we're working on a new game. Depending on some factors, I'm feeling like because we're getting that holiday season, it's probably not going to start in the new year, to be honest. So sometime in January, probably now for the new game. Just because I was hoping to get things thrown out earlier, but like just life delays on my own.
Yeah, we are like 2 weeks out from Crimbo.
Yeah, and like that's just insanity during that time period. So I'm gonna kind of put that on it. But I'll be doing some tabletop topics on the stream next week. I've decided that I finally want to start, especially with like another update on it. I had it and I was going to sit on it. I want a comfy game. I'm going to do the Dave the Diver.
That's one of my favorite games. It's so good.
I'm going to start on Tuesday. And then I'm going to...
I need to start playing a game.
Yeah. And then on Friday, I'm going to continue Elden Ring, but I'm almost on the back end. And I don't know much else. I only have the final boss, the DLC to fight. I've beaten the boss of the game.
Godspeed, Sailor. I couldn't do it.
Apparently, a new Elden Ring DLC is in the
It's like a weird co-op boss rush thing.
It's not a DLC.
I don't know if I'm into it.
Yeah, I've read up on it.
I'm kind of like, more.
Here's the thing. I liked Elden Ring for just honestly fucking about. Me going and like seeing like, is there anything to find over here? And I'm like, I loved finding the stuff that people were like dung. I'm like, ooh, smithing stone, neat. That was me. I'm like, ooh, what's over this corner?
There's a certain amount of dopamine production in just finding a thing.
I just like going to like weird corners.
Maybe I'll play Elden Ring.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's
I actually
an
like
alright game
too.
I didn't mind the bosses, but again, like, but leaving, fighting the DLC until the final boss, coming back and finally being able to beat whatever her face is, the Blade of Mikola.
Melania, Blade of Mikola. Believe me, you'll know her name.
Finally beating her was great. But by the time I did those two things, I'm sorry, the rest of the game, I was kind of a...
When you do the DLC, base game is really easy.
Yeah, I like came boss, and I'm like, the final boss, I did have to fight a few times, but it was like 5 times to get the final boss.
I heard they redid the final boss.
We can get on the horse now, but I also found that
that
got
make it
murdered.
more fun.
It helps for certain attacks, but the sword attack, you can't dodge that with that, so like that killed me and I had to be on foot for that.
Nice.
But no, my technique for fighting anything big worked on that, which was just spam spiral. Spiral in the Manic Mage spell. Right. It just tore through there, and I'm like, spiral, you're big and meaty and have a lot of chunk to you. Latula, please distract it for a little bit by spiral.
That's fair.
But I do like it. I'm glad. I'm close to beating the finale for that. I don't know if I will beat that boss on stream. I've been talking about like maybe I'll kind of do something else, and occasionally I might come back to like as a just hangout chatting game, because I do want to kind of collect other chunk, because I like that idea of like going to like farming some items and stuff. Maybe I'll do that, and we'll kind of hang out as that's an Elden thing. Because eventually maybe I'll do a second playthrough to get the other and more of the like boss remembrance items, just like how I don't know. I haven't decided everything. I want to figure out what I'm gonna do. I got most of the items. I've had a good time. I don't know if I'll do more. It's a question mark. Anyway, that's that there. And maybe now I'm done it. Maybe one day in the future I'll throw that Elden Ring randomizer in there. I do another randomizer. I'll do that one. Just for beating the game. Just a simple beating the game, not going everywhere. But that does involve sometimes fighting a lot of bosses, because you never know which ones have, like, I guess depending on your setting, where the Great Runes Anyway. But no, that'll be my kind of week next week. And I'm leaving holiday week to be determined. I don't know yet what's going
fair.
on. Yeah. So, but next week.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Next week I'm probably going to be doing extra streams because I have that week off.
Woo.
I took vacation time because my job sucks and I only get literally the Christmas day itself off.
Feel that. Although it's hard for me to get off because I do cook for old people and they need to eat.
That's honestly, at least you're doing a service.
Yeah, I like my job. It makes me feel good.
Curse them and needing to have food. Curse you old people.
I mean, they're pretty alright.
I mean, you could argue my job gives an old person food, but...
Yeah, but like... there's a certain guy who could give him some other stuff.
Anyway,
certain Nintendo character.
God. The Game Awards was a thing.
The Game Awards are great last night, or Thursday.
They had some interesting, a few interesting trailers. I'll just say that. Definitely a bunch of unexpected stuff.
3 years.
I think the unexpected stuff is really what got me. Like the Okami, Onimusha,
Witcher 4, Okami,
Witcher 4.
Onimusha, Double Dragon.
Mm-hmm. There was definitely some unexpected. Anyway, all right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, weekend. I'll be check out Worm. I'll be back on Tuesday with as planned right now, Dave the Diver. So I'll do some cozy hanging out on Tuesday. All right, bye. And check out my social medias. All right, bye now. Set up a video.